Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
So we are live from the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios in Laguna Beach, California today. We have our guests. We are in studio, which I am so excited. It is such an honor and a privilege to have this gentleman in studio with us. And he's an executive protection agent, which I think is just fascinating. He's a video blogger. He has great content online if you've never seen it. He's a published author. He's a veteran on a steadfast mission to improve the quality of the world by making people, good people, more dangerous. Byron Rodgers, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for your service to this country. I am very grateful for that, and I'm sure everyone out there appreciates your service. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Hey, it's an honor, Ben. Thanks so much for having me, sir.
So let's get into it, okay? All right. Everyone's gonna love Byron. He's just fantastic. You've been a protection agent for nearly 15 years, okay? And you've seen a lot of crazy stuff. Could you share with our audience some of the crazy examples so my listeners have a better understanding and feel of what you've seen? So, like, for example, you were in 2017 at the Trump inauguration security detail. So share with us, like, some of the crazy things you've seen through your career.
You know, it's been such an amazing ride, you know, to get out of the military. And I started at 21. This is the only thing I've done with my entire adult, you know, life. I've seen everything from like amazing, really like benevolent, awesome people I've served. And I've also seen the other side and done all the like, you know, I only want this color M&Ms and Skittles. And I've seen a plane landed for, you know, a guy looking at the wrong magazine at the wrong time. I've seen, you know, that side of things. In terms of combative situations, you know, we've rolled through roadblocks that, you know, looked like they were law enforcement, only to find out that they weren't law enforcement. And, you know, we had to push cars out of the way and get out of there. You know, there are some things that we had to do in some other countries, like in Africa and in the Congo, where we had to evacuate, you know, our clients and things like that. Fortunately, you know, we've always been able to accomplish the mission. And, you know, I say by the grace of God and through diligence, you know, but I've seen things like, you know, when you'll be working with a client and things will happen that look like probing operations where, you know, you do have a known aggressor that you're working against, and, you know, things will happen that are outside of the norm where it seems like people are testing you constantly. So really what it's been is it's been like the perfect kind of pipeline to go from combative, legitimate war into now this other realm where it's much more refined, but you get to maintain so many of those skills and principles and values of being a warrior. You just now have to package it in a way that's just more palatable and more effective in this new battle space, essentially. So I mean, you know, I've seen a lot over the years, and it's been an honor.
How do people find you? Because you're not in this, you're not putting an ad in the yellow pages saying if you need a protection agent and you're, you know, you're an executive or you're at a certain status level. How is this a referral type situation, or how does it work that people find you?
Yeah, so, you know, you're not gonna just call up a billionaire or just you know, put out some social media stuff generally, but you know, I also have been blessed to have a really big, the biggest brand in executive protection and the most reach. And so I have had clients, you know, slide into my DMs, you know, that has happened. But primarily it's word of mouth. It's word of mouth, and it's being known as the guy that can render high quality security. And then it's serving your principal. And then that dinner party when they're talking to other people who are in that same sphere of relationship and influence. And then, you know, they bring my company on and we come up with solutions for them. So it's one of those word of mouth kind of things primarily. You know, that's how you survive in this game.
So explain to everyone your story. Like, you're in the military, you're in the Marines, you come out. How did you decide? I mean, you probably you're very intelligent. How how did you decide, say, you know what, I want to do this? Because, you're in the military, you're still risking your life, you're serving this country, and then you say, well, I'm going to take it a step further. So how did the business come about where you say, I want to expand my horizons and get into this?
So I've always known that I was a warrior, since I was a young man. And, I always remember kind of, being discouraged from that a little bit. Like, stop playing with guns. I grew up Christian. So, it's kind of like, be nice, and I was like, nah. And I always was looking for a mission. I really, knew in my heart that warriors can serve. Mm-hmm. And being a warrior is a very, high level act of service. You have to train to be able to do it. You need to be able to outperform another human being to be able to do it. It's a really honorable way to serve a demographic or individuals. And then, so, I asked my Heavenly Father, like, how can I be a good warrior, and how can I be a warrior for something positive? And boom, there was the Marine Corps. And so I went to the Marine Corps and went to combat. I caught 5 IEDs. I've been, blown up. I had an out-of-body experience there, and that was a life-changing event. But fortunately, I was intact. And then I stepped into the next phase of my life. I'm getting out of the military, and this is kind of this stuff that inspired me to write that book, Finding Meaning After the Military, which was, I'm scared now. Like, I'm this guy that's devoted the first part of my life to physical combat and becoming as physically potent and effective as possible. What am I going to do? I can only really hold a gun. I only understand this narrow set of skills. So I'm either going to be like an overseas contractor or in law enforcement, really. So I started to kind of go after those things. And then, like, the story really goes, and it's kind of, I was just kind of like, I just was praying, and I was like, hey, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. I only have these skills. And, my Heavenly Father said, go to this bar and bounce there. And you're going to be a bodyguard, and you're going to travel the world. And that literally is what happened. I went to a bar. I started bouncing. I was there for 3 months. When people say, I didn't choose the game chose me. Like, it kind of, that's what happened.
Right. Right.
I was there for about 3 months. 2 guys walked in. I was busting tables, just always trying to over deliver, trying to be a good dude, busting tables. I didn't need to because I was a bouncer. 2 guys look at me and they're like, hey, have him do it. And I'm like, what do you need? And they're like, you're Marine, right? And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, you got combat experience? I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, go get these 2 permits and give me a call back in 2 weeks. I'm going to show you how to make a lot more money doing what you're doing right now. And I was like, roger that. I blink. I'm in the back of a Bentley on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. First time in a Bentley. I didn't realize the carpet is like, it's like fur, right? So I'm in the back and I got my feet and I'm like trying not to put my feet down. So I'm like, I think someone left their jacket down here.
Right.
And then I get on my first private security detail. We traveled more than the president. And that year we hit 60 countries in 1 year. And it was like learning how to drink out of a fire hose. And that's kind of how I got in. I just, by the grace of God, I listened, and someone just was like, that guy. And then of course I know these guys, Luke Agajanian, he was the guy that snatched me up. And he's like, we were watching you all night, man. We were watching how you deal with people. We were watching, can we trust you with our principal, with our client? And it was just happened to be the biggest traveling detail in the United States at that time. So that was my entry. And then, I ended up going to the East Coast and rebuilding my career as well because I wanted to be closer to my father. And I started bouncing there as well and rebuilt my career from there, and then came back to this side, started chasing the pager and kind of domestically doing like domestic contracting, working for like 5 or 6 different companies. And that's what gave me so much experience. And then finally one just kind of said, hey, we want to put you in business. We want you to be our guy. And that was the birth of my company. And now, we're taking care of a lot of people.
So a lot of people resonate with the movie Bodyguard with Whitney Houston, with what you do.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
So we're going to clear that up. And I know that's not the most accurate depiction of what you do. Okay, I've done enough research. I get it. They might not get our audience.
Right.
So share with them the lifestyle of a protection agent, because I think that's really interesting what you do.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting job. Like you mentioned, lifestyle. So of course, one of the things I'm always saying to guys in my content everywhere is it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. The things you do when you're not working are the things that empower you to be effective while you are working. So, you need to train, on your own time. You need to make sure you're managing your health and all that stuff on your own time. So there's a whole personal time component that you bring value to these principals' lives. But I think what you're really asking about is like, what does a day-to-day look like when you're working? Sure. Which is, everything from going with them to the grocery store, and trying to blend, and I'm a 240-pound black dude with tattoos, right? So like, this is the reality I'm working from, so we're in all these different environments. I'm at a grocery store. I've done everything from hold the bag for my principal, for my protectee while they pick out their fruit, but just really service. And something that's really important for guys to know getting into this is a service industry. You are here to serve these people. And that was an interesting one for me to grab, coming from Action Jackson, coming from combat. But then once I realized, look, man, warriors have been doing this since the beginning of time. There's always been a different sect of warrior that's been separated and trained to protect the nobility and VIPs. And I really started to kind of get into the honor of that. But on the day-to-day, you could be going to a grocery store, you could be going to boardroom meetings, you could be going backstage with your protectee, hopping on, jets, flying here, there. You get so much access to so many things. The inauguration that I worked for, we went to, 3 or 4 different events. We had diplomatic immunity. So that's been kind of the coolest thing about this is, you go to a 7-diamond hotel and you liaise with the house, and you're using all the back entrances. And, people think that there is some mythology out there that like protection has to do with all the physical stuff. And it really isn't about that. The executive protection agent, and, we don't actually like the term bodyguard inside of the industry because it brings that bouncer kind of vibe out, right? But the executive protection agent is doing everything from logistics, all your concierge stuff. We're interfacing with all the different teams we'll need from the venue, from the FBO, all the cars, everyone around that principal's life. We're essentially managing them. We're ultimately responsible. Now they have staff members, but when the ball's dropped, I'm the guy sitting there, right. And they're like, hey, why aren't the cars at the?
Well, I want to ask you that because there's got to be times that you're going through it and there's a breach.
Oh yeah.
Okay, where you have a high profile person and they want to go shake someone's hand. Oh. And you're like, oh, I understand, because we're all humans.
Yeah.
So we want to touch and engage people.
Yeah, and it's your brand too.
Especially if you have fans too, with some of your clients for sure are high profile. They're gonna have fans or people that want to see them and they want to greet them and engage with them. And you're probably in the background saying, okay,
this is such a bad
all
idea.
right, this is not a good is not a great idea, but we understand what they want to do.
Right.
And then also, how many people do you have other folks from the military that you're recruiting to work for you on these jobs? How does that work?
So 2 things. So on the first thing, one of the things that's a huge friction point for guys getting into this industry is realizing you're not on a State Department detail, you're not in the Secret Service, you have no power here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, your principal's going to do what they want to do. You can try to encourage them maybe in a different direction, but you're there to make it as safe as possible, right? So we could say seatbelt security. If you're too tight, they're not going to want to wear you, and they're going to find someone who's going to say yes, or who's going to do it the way they want them to do it. The question we always ask guys is, who's ultimately responsible for your customers' safety? And the guys are always like, me, I am. And it's like, negative. You can only be as close or there as often as they want you to be. They're ultimately responsible. You put your best foot forward and you tighten that seatbelt up as much or as little as they want, because you're here to render a service. If you get out of bounds, they'll get rid of you, because we're not in the State Department. There's you don't have that authority in the private sector. So yes, you go into unsafe. I had a student that got through our course, was on a detail in Mexico, and his principal wanted to go downtown in Mexico, very recognizable figure, and just take some photos, and like, and just be with the people, and like, this, and everyone, including the locals, are like, this is not a good idea, but we're in their world. And that's why, I chose the emblem, which is like, an integer on the periodic table, because security is one component that is in your life to help optimize you on your mission to whatever it is. I'm here to support that mission and integrate with all the other little components you've put together to achieve your mission. I just want to make it safe. That's my mission. So on that first thing, yes, 100%. We have to do that all the time, you know. And what was the second one again?
It was how with your talent that's supporting you on these jobs, these missions. Are you recruiting folks from the military that have the training, or what's a typical independent contractor employee, however you structure it? Like, how does that work?
It's very interesting. So we have military and law enforcement are very often preferred. And I might, they might come for me after this, but this is the reality of the game, Military, law enforcement preferred, civilians a little bit less so, but I want to stick up for the civilians because I run in-docs in order to get on my teams and get in my company. And so I get to see where people's skills are at today, right now, before I put them on a client. And the civilians, I'll have a guy that's like, oh yeah, I'm prior Marine Corps like me, or I'm prior law enforcement, and maybe, and actually I did this too when I got out. I was like, oh, I've been to war twice. Like I'm legit. I'm a made man. And then I went to my civilian buddy lured me into a shooting competition. And there was like a 17-year-old girl that just ate my face, just wrecked shop. And I just was like, I'm not going to Valhalla if I don't figure this out. So the civilian guy who's a little bashful at the in-doc, who's like, I'm not military or law enforcement, but I train, I hit the mats, 3 times a week. I get my jits in, do some MMA, and I hit the range like at least weekly. That guy is going to perform the best at my in-doc. So but the military, law enforcement guys, they have a lot more experience. They have discipline. They understand tactics. So there's advantages to both. Generally, it's military and law enforcement guys that dominate, but there are so many at the top of our industry and some of the best guys and guys that that have mentored me that are straight civilians. And part of what I want to do with my brand and my content is really show the world that, like, if you have the right heart, if you come to life by protecting people, male or female, there's advantages of both. If you have the right heart and the right engine, I can get you the training to make you a legitimate protector, so that when you step off that line of departure, you have the skills. And if you have the passion and the skills, you're going to be awesome at this, and you're going to invest in yourself, and it'll be more than just a job like it's supposed to be,
So the characteristic traits you're looking for is passion, commitment,
right,
persistence,
right,
focus.
Yeah.
Is that what makes a good protection agent?
100%. I can teach anyone tactics. Character is really what I'm looking at, and if they take it seriously and they have a passion for it, that's the guy I want over the Delta Navy SEAL Jedi guy that's just like, yeah, whatever, I was in comp, like, this isn't as cool as what I've done or anything like that.
There's a lot a person needs to give up to be good at this job. What makes the role so compelling for people?
What do you do? That's a great question. It is, I find, so for me, we got roughly 22 veterans committing suicide a day. And I believe that is through a lack of ability to find a new mission and leverage or implement all the different skills and things they learned while they're in the military, and they were validated on all these levels and had use for all these things, and then kind of the atrophy of identity sets in and they can't find a mission to plug in an amazing asset they built over there, So I think what really, what makes this compelling is 2 things. One, to some, it's the access and it's the glory shots and it's an ego thing. And that's dangerous because that's the first pitfall. When you start to get in these environments and you're on these private jets and you're around all these cars and people are like, hello, Mr. Rodgers, who's representing, monster brand, monster individual. If you don't have the right heart about it and you can't maintain that professional understanding, relationship, and humility, you can start thinking it's kind of about you. And that's like the first thing that washes guys out, is they start thinking they're in the will and they're friends with their principal and client. They turn into bodyguard, and it's like, dude, our demographic gets tired of Lamborghinis and things. Like, you're the flavor of the month. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. Be a professional first, But then the other thing is, there are a lot of people also in the world that are working jobs. Like, for me, I probably wouldn't have survived if I went to a cubicle. You know, I just wasn't. Half the reason I joined the military was because I was like, I'm not doing the college thing. This is not me. So there's guys working probably at Starbucks right now that would come alive with the responsibility of standing between someone and someone else who's trying to harm them. There's something I believe primal, and I talk about the protection DNA. And I think there's a lot of men and women that are going, because I ran into both, that are going through life right now working some job, and they're just like, this kind of just sucks, you know?
Right.
And so that I think is really a draw. It's like I can do something that's maybe more interesting, maybe more exciting, depending on how you do it. If you chase the pager like I did, you're working different clients, different venues, like all kinds of interesting things. Now there's boring moments. Your holidays will be wrecked. You know, You'll spend holidays inside of an SUV parked outside of someone's house, and maybe they'll bring you a plate. And if they do or don't, it doesn't matter. It's an honor to do what you do, and you guys will figure it out. But I think those things really draw people to it, and I think there's a protection DNA. I think there's some people out there that are just wired. They were the defender of their friend when they got picked on in school, and this type of work just brings them to life.
You know, you brought up a good point, is when you're protecting someone, there has to be a tight-knit bond you're developing with them, because this is someone's life, this is safety, and how important it is. Is it hard to separate when, you know, like, let's say you were protecting me,
right,
and I'm relying on you, I'm for sure going to engage you and develop that relationship, that deep connection, right? Because I'm trusting you with my life and family or whatever. How do you separate that? That's got to be a real challenge for someone like you and people that work for you, because it's like, you want to be professional, but you also want to have your personality, and you want to get to know them, because the better you know them, probably the better you could do your job. How do you balance that? That's got to be so challenging.
So success in this industry, one of the biggest struggles with it is the social dynamic component, 100%.
Right.
You know, client relations, the outer court, the inner court relations, you know, relations with the entourage. And then you have your nannies and butlers and all those there's all these little like layers, spheres of relationships that you have to be able to navigate effectively, procure high quality relationships, maintain those. So one of the main things I'm always teaching agents is the social dynamics, because that's how you're going to, social dynamics keep you in the game and get you paid. Hard skills may save lives, right? So those are the two competencies you have to have, but 90% of all you're going to do is social dynamics. And so it's really important that you're able to establish that connection with your principal in some cases. But I always teach my guys, and the way it has to work is professionalism first. And I tell them, you know, hanging out with your principal is like hanging out with like maybe like a pet lion, you know, like, oh yeah, you guys are cool, like it's great, but like, do not for 1 second misunderstand the relationship. You know, they hold your world here in their hands. And if you can, what I've learned, because I have principals that are like family, that it's like, you know, I might be in the will. I don't know. You know, like it's that type
you probably are. You just don't realize it.
You know, maybe. But it's one of those things where, you know, I've been able to now, you know, really look at those relationships, and it's because I always prioritize professionalism. I knew when to look like I was not listening. I knew when to leave the room. And, you know, you spend, you know, almost a decade in the same room, in the shadows with someone all the time. You're going to get close, but you have to know when, you know, that person wants to be more kind of like a friend, and you have to know when that person, when you're respecting their office. And default, always respect their office. They lead conversation, you know. And then at the same time, you always have to be very aware of what you're saying. And as you guys get to know each other, you actually really, if they know they can trust you to be a professional always first, then those relationships really become closer and more valuable. That's what I find. A lot of guys try to shortcut it and become friends first before, you know, always maintaining. They just try to push the boundaries, send a text, you know, like, you know, crack a joke, and like, and it just, when you have a high net worth individual who everyone all the time, everywhere they go, is vying for their favor, it's a real good way to wash yourself out and just become nails on a chalkboard, you know.
Interesting.
So that's kind of the flow.
Well said. So we talked a little bit. Does being in production ever feel boring for you? I mean, it's got to be long hours, and
Yeah.
A lot of traveling.
It is the type of job that there's a lot of downtime. Um, and boredom is an adversary. Complacency is an adversary. Fortunately for me, maybe it's my father because he's a crazy serial entrepreneur from the Bahamas, and he's always, to me, boredom is like, I'm the guy people remember when they worked with because they're like, yeah, I remember you were like doing schoolwork whenever we got downtime. Like you were listening to audiobooks. Like, so for me, free time is kind of a gift, as long as I'm not doing anything that, takes my head out of the game. It's a gift. But the reality of the job, and I've done so much while working, but the reality of the job is definitely you will have to manage boredom. And, the Marine Corps teaches us find work. Like, okay, we got downtime, tighten up your gear, think about your next route, liaise with your point of contact at the next venue, make sure everything's the way that you guys agreed that it should be, find work. But you're going to have downtime. You're going to be on, 20 plus hour flights, and you're going to be waiting outside in a vehicle, and you're going to be, standing in doorways, and you're going to be doing all that. And so boredom's something you need to learn how to deal with for sure for this job. But there are so many. So like for someone on the outside looking in, yeah, for sure there's boredom. For someone who I would be mentoring or seeking to influence, I would teach you find constructive ways to resurrect dead time, as Robert Greene would say.
Yeah, I just, is it tough to keep your mind sharp when you have that type of time and not get distracted in your head where you start wandering? I mean, how do you keep your mind sharp when you're in those situations?
I think a lot of guys struggle with that. And, I think for me, I have kind of that Marine Corps discipline. Like, it just got pounded into us that complacency kills. Like, this is how you will die, is you will not be paying attention and you will not have your head in the game. You'll be thinking about your girlfriend back home and it'll be lights out, understanding also systems of protection, like understanding your risk level, understanding tactical positioning. Like if my principal's in this room and I take up a hard point that gives me visual mastery over this environment, I don't have to be like as intensely focusing on all the little things, because as long as I've got that rolling risk assessment going, that's the other thing, and I'm looking at everyone and I'm reading their body language and stuff like that, like I thrive, like I love it. So these systems of how to secure an environment, take that hard point, have visual mastery, think about what your plan is, what you're going to do, keep that rolling risk assessment going where you're conducting that surveillance on the environment and you're looking for anomalies or behavior above the baseline. You really have quite a bit to do a lot of the time. And then if you have genuine downtime where you actually are bored and your client is secured, it's your fault if you're bored. Find something to do. Work on your side hustle, learn something, get an audiobook, put yourself through college like I did, and write a book like I did, and get after it. But as far as staying in the game, at first it's a lot to take in when you're learning how to do that. Then it becomes second nature, and it's like driving, After a while you're driving, you're brushing your teeth and sending text messages even though you shouldn't be. But because the systems are automatically running, and it becomes easier. And then I love it. Most good protectors love it, reading the environment.
So I imagine a key of the job is, like you said, being alert all the time, never being surprised. That said, have there ever been times on duty that someone has surprised you, something crazy, and how did you respond to that situation?
There was definitely a time when I was like, is this gonna happen right now? Is this gonna happen? There's two times. Fortunately, I was very proud of how I responded. And I don't know if this is because of the combative background. But we were walking down the street and there was a guy walking towards us. And of course, at first you're like, all right, cool, dude, walking towards me. And it's like, let me obviously shade my client so that the principal's up against the wall. And this gentleman's walking towards me, so I'm between both of them no matter what happens. And he just kept walking towards me, kept walking straight. And I felt like he was like, because we had, credible threats. And so I felt like he was testing us to see what we would do. And then as he walked up, he kind of like started putting his his hand into his jacket, and then I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. You're like, is this happening?
We have
this
a
is happening. I
situation
guess we're
going
gonna do
on
this.
now.
Fortunately, I was with another awesome agent who was right there over my shoulder and ready to take the principal and do what we needed to do. But I remember just locking onto him, and by the time we kept getting closer and closer and kind of reaching, and like, of course, there's more tactical ways to deal with it, but there's something about a situation when you're really feeling it, and you're kind of, it's like driving a car when you're feathering the brake and you're understanding what's going on. And fortunately, he came up and he kind of like reached in his jacket and then almost smirked and walked off. And it was not like a teenager playing with you smirk. Like, this was kind of like, I see you, you see me. And maybe they were checking to see if we were armed. I don't know. But it was very surprising in a way, because you're looking for it all the time. And then it's like, today's the day, it's about to happen, you know. And fortunately, I dealt with it. I felt really good about how I dealt with it as we moved through the situation. Another time I was pretty surprised was we were rolling through the Dominican Republic. We had an awesome team with us, and I really have to stress the value of relationships and being able to drive results through teams, you know, when it comes to this work. On the agent side, when you're working internationally with a team, and, you know, maybe their culture isn't as our version of professional, you know, maybe they're less punctual, maybe they're less definite with their answers and reliable with their answers. Like, being able to drive results for them is huge. But we're rolling down the road and we see a police roadblock, and I'm kind of like, just expecting us to stop, you know, and, you know, we just keep rolling, and we had bikes rolling ahead of us, and they roll up to the roadblock, and they kind of like take up security positions, and our lead vehicle rolls up to the beginning of to the edge of the roadblock and starts pushing their truck out of the way, like bumper to bumper, just pushing their truck out of the way. And then we fly around behind them, and we're rolling through, and I'm looking at my locals as this is all happening. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, I'm going to be like, we're all going to get in trouble. What are you doing? You know? And my locals like, these are not police. They are not police. You don't know where you're at. You don't know what's going on. Like he's just like, we know what we're doing. And I'm taking all this in. And then he looked, and this was something that we were briefed on could happen. And so as we were rolling up, we're kind of looking at each other, and they made the call, and we rolled through, and everything was solid. And we looked back, and they're not chasing us. They're not pursuing us. And we kept rolling, you know? So in this job, systems, you know, as that guy's approaching me, I was able to get 2 agents on that principal in that environment. I'm armed. I'm going to take that number 1 guy. That's my job. It's systems and it's planning that really get you through these situations. When we're in the DR, you know, I had the best team, one of the best overseas teams I've ever worked for sure the best team there, you know, and being able to drive results through them and their competence and their systems, to make sure that my customer got the best result. Of course, you know, the principals in the car has no idea what's going on.
Planning's got to be just a huge factor in everything you do.
Absolutely.
Is there sometimes it will take weeks
Absolutely.
to prepare for an event, and do you have to look at either maybe a grid of the layout of the land or the elevation, or if you're going into a building, can we see a floor plan? How deep do you go when you're planning to know like where the potential catastrophic breaches or different areas where you can have problems to make sure you can do your job?
Yeah, I mean, we go pretty deep. We go to the dark web, and we look around down there to see who's aware of our presence and what's going to happen and what's being said about us. There's a huge digital layer of research that goes into certain operations with certain principals. For every one day that principal is going to be in country or on the ground for some of these events, we have agents there running through the entire day, understanding everything about every single venue, all the different routes. Routes are like the beginning, you know, routes, local assets, everything down to the wildlife, researching our points of contact, vetting everyone who we're going to come in contact with, you know, making sure that everyone's on the same page with how they're going to play their position, and just making sure everything's, you know, working with local law enforcement and local agencies. And sometimes we're given assets to be able to achieve the mission. So there is quite a lot of I like to call it schoolboy stuff that goes into what we do, way more than just the body guarding, the close protection aspect of it. And, you know, I spent I spent months overseas. I've spent, a lot of time overseas, even solo, just working the environment before the principals land, and looking at all these bases. And if you have a good advanced guy, by the time that movement team arrives, he just hands you the keys and he's one step ahead of you the entire time. So before that principal even gets to a venue, that advanced guy's there making sure everything's as it should be, moving through those environments as a team.
Wow. That's amazing. So on your website, okay, you have a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli, okay, and you probably know it. All courses of action are risky. So prudence is not in avoiding danger. It's impossible, as we know, but calculating risk and acting decisively. Are there any powerful stories you could share as an executive protector where you had to quickly make some calculated risks?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, stories. I always,
Yeah,
stories.
we're open. The vault's open.
Yeah,
You
I
already
know,
started opening. We're just widening the door for you.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
all.
right? I can,
That's all.
without being specific, there was
Right.
a situation in the Congo where we had to evacuate. And there came a moment at the venue where you could tell that security was compromised. Our local law enforcement assets, are looking inside of a room where we're dealing with valuables, and it's obvious they're the ones that are armed, and there are armed escorts, and they're like looking at us like, hey, man, that's a lot of stuff you got there. And so we had to make a call, and we had to extract that principal, and we were leaving a stadium, and so we had to deal with the crowds, and to really answer the question, anytime a bodyguard or close protection guy, an EP agent, has to interrupt anything or break the line of the stage in order to protect that client, they're taking a calculated risk. It's like,
Right.
hopefully I'm right about this because this
Right.
might cost me my job, but
Right.
in the spirit of the question, so we had to extract that principal, get them to the vehicle, get to the FBO. We had to kind of get outside of the vehicle and really push people away from the vehicle and kind of fight our way to the main road. We got to the main road. We pull up at the airport, and this was another calculated risk time. The security at the FBO, the private airfield, are two kids with AK-47s and ponchos, like Mista, like Blood Diamond, like just like the movie,
Right.
And they're
Right.
kind of looking at us, and we're looking at them, and we're like, hey, that's our plane. We got to go. And they're kind of like, and we're like, we got to go. So meanwhile, the airport is hitting up our pilot and saying, hey, $250 airport tax. 20 minutes later, hey, another $250. It's Saturday tax,
Right.
And so they're getting kind of extorted while they sit there. And now we're still kind of evacuating, from that situation at the stadium, and no one's visibly on us, but we need to get the plane in the air. And we end up just kind of blowing past these kids, and we were like, we got to get to the plane. We got to get this done. We blow past them, throw a car in a blocking position. Boom, we get on the airstrip, and we're now getting ready to take off. And the tower's saying, hey, if you take off, we're going to shoot you down, And fortunately, our team and our pilots had experience, and they're just kind of like, I believe the quote was, you don't have an Air Force.
Right.
Take it up with our handlers. We're taking off, and we got out of there. So there were a number of calculated risks we had to take, and calculating risk is just such an organic part of the job. When you're a principal, you're in a venue, there's one guy that just, he's not right. The probability is that your customer is going to, for whatever reason, that guy will try to find his way next to your customer. It just happens. It's
Right.
just, and so seeing that and being like, hey, agent number 2, can you get between, hey, cut that guy off, distract that guy, take him somewhere else. We're going to be, hitting the hallway here in a minute. Being able to stay ahead of that is always the game. And then there'll be nights where your customer's like, hey, I want to go to my favorite spot downtown, Israel tonight. And you're like, and locals are like, your local assets are like, this is not a good idea. And you're like, you submit that, and then they're like, hey, I still want to do it. So then you get to work. Like, how can we make this as safe as possible? And what's that look like, with the locals? And you make it as safe as possible, and you go in there with your principal.
We'll switch gears a little bit. You're a competitive shooter.
Ah, yes, sir.
Okay. How often do you compete in competitions?
Man, I was on a good clip, but realistically now it's probably like once or twice a month. If I'm lucky, I can get 3 in, but just because the work has been, with the school and with the company, I usually get in like at least 1 to 2 a month.
What kind of guns are you shooting?
I love.
Well, that's what everyone wants to know. I'm just the
You're
conduit. People out there are saying,
setting the
"What
stage.
was he using?" I want to know. So go ahead.
Yeah, so like the firearms, because I get asked all the time, what firearm should I use? What's the best? And the technology is there now to where they're all pretty good and pretty effective. There's different things you can like and different things you might not like. But really, the most important question is, what training are you getting behind this firearm? It's like dating. Find one you think is sexy, because that's when you'll actually go train with.
Right.
And then train to it, or learn you don't like it, because it's like dating and be like, I really don't like how this works.
Right.
I should have got a bigger or a smaller one. So for me, I've always been a striker fire guy. No safeties. I want my gun to be like a remote control. I pick it up, I push a button, it goes bang. So I started really, and actually my other weapon systems failed, which is another kind of story, but I found myself shooting a Glock. And I didn't want to shoot a Glock because it's kind of basic, but then I really found the appreciation for them. I love the bore over axis, how close the slide is to the top of my hand and the barrel.
Right.
I love the grip angle, like it being like a 45-degree angle, just like an extension of my fist. And when I pull the trigger, it goes bang no matter what. So then I really got into Glocks, and then now I'm running a CZ P10 CS, depending on what I'm wearing that day. So like they're kind of full size, mid size. I have every one of them. CZ P10F all the way down to C and S. So CZ P10, which is essentially like an Acura versus a Honda. It's like both of them are workhorses, both of them are dependable, but like maybe the Acura has some bells and whistles the Honda doesn't, and I just love the dependability and the workhorse, and like love everything about them. I think the CZ is a little bit better. Yeah.
What do you enjoy about shooting and being at these competitions? What do you enjoy about it?
For me, man, it is just not a game. Like we'll play the game, but I have that warrior inside of me, and I need to let him stretch his legs, and I need to, let him like be there and continue and sharpen the edge. So I'll go to the gym in the morning, and that's what that's about. Like maybe everyone else is having like a great time. For me, I'm like keeping that warrior alive. We'll go to the shoot house and train client retrieval, and then do force on force. For me, this is not a game. Like I'm really, because I've learned the value of that by training like that, and then going to combat and seeing that, like, when you've been here 1,000 times, you've died 1,000 deaths in training, you have definite advantages on human beings who have not been doing those things. And so I go to a shooting combat. It's like cathartic. It's like once that timer goes beep, once that thing, I am literally in. I'm in a whole nother kind of environment, really, as I go through that shooting stage. And then I get done. I shoot that last round. I holster my weapon. Then I'm back.
It's interesting. It's almost like you're an athlete, because your practice prepares you for the game. What do you do before you go work out or you go to a competition and sharpening your skills, like you said? What do you do with your mindset, your emotional state, to get you in that mood? Are you putting on a certain outfit that you put on every single time, and that's your uniform, and that's like your alter ego?
Yeah.
Right? The other Byron, and it's like, okay, it's game time. I got my uniform on. I'm gonna change it. I'm going to kick some ass. I'm gonna go work out.
Yeah.
Going to my competition. I have to change who I am now. Like, what do you do?
It's very interesting. That's an awesome question. It's almost kind of the opposite in a way, because for me, I'm always telling myself, this is who I am. This is what makes me, so much of, in many other environments in kind of the nerf civilian world, I'm more like, all right, we're going to be a chimera. We're going to blend. We're going to, but I very, very much believe in authenticity. And I think that's where all of our power is. So I'm always trying to be like, You meet me on you spend time with me on social media. One, you'll probably spend more time with me than like you'll know me because I'm just so like
Right.
genuine, and there's so much of Byron there. I've invested hours, but like when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to war, and for me, because I'm a warrior, it's beautiful. I worked with some NFL guys. Everything in their life is likened to football.
Right.
We're eating a sandwich. They're talking about how it's just like football. So it kind of depends on the lens you come from. But when I wake up in the morning, it hurts. It's early. It's like it was in Iraq. I wake up at 4 a.m. I go to bed at 11 because I'm on a mission to do certain things in this life. And so it's such an honor. I'm like, good, we're going to attack this day before it wakes up. And then I slam my supplements, my vitamins and all my brain supplements and like a little bit of caffeine, like in a little, all my pills in a little shot glass next to my bed. And I'm powering up, and then I'm gearing up. I'm putting my stuff on. I'm getting ready to go to the gym. I'm listening to something that's edifying and building myself up. And I'm like getting into a mindset to go to this gym. And my gym time is not about physical. I mean, the physical stuff's like a benefit, but like it's really about meditating on what it is I need to do. I'm solving problems. I'm like physically, mentally, and spiritually strengthening myself. I'm learning who I am. Am I a coward? Like, am I going to do that extra set? Am I going to push it? I'm learning how strong I am that day to make sure that I'm not arrogant. I don't want to have any inaccurate confidence. I don't want to know exactly what I can do that day. So it's like it's a discipline that strengthens me on many levels. And and with the shooting competitions, it's kind of the same thing. Like I'm having fun. We're hanging out. It's really a really fun time. And then right before my stage, I'll get quiet. I'll start really analyzing everything there. I'll start doing some mental reps. And then when I get up to that firing line, stillness. Like I want to have my plan, my first two or three steps, and then my mind is clear and I'm looking directly at the spot that I'm going to attack the second I hear that beat. And then
So I've gotten into meditation recently, and it's phenomenal. Are you doing that every day? Are you meditating? Are you giving yourself space away from your chaos? Or let's say you have a stressful moment, okay, I'm protecting this person. It's not the safest environment. It could get a little crazy or stressful. What do you do to keep yourself balanced? I mean, are you meditating? Like, obviously you work out and that goes a certain length, but what do you do for your mind to really, because you have to control your emotions.
Oh yeah.
Like all the time. You have to be focused. You have to be present.
Yeah.
What do you do?
That's interesting. So, because I do, I not only have the protection stuff going, I have teams in the field at all times. I'm at like 200 text messages on my phone on any given day, like that are there right now. I have, students running through my executive protection school as well. So my mind can be in a lot of different places. That workout time is kind of like problem solving and or edifying myself. Like I have a playlist of I've been compiling it for like 7 years of motivational speakers. It's like 700 videos. Like it's like the library. And if I'm not thinking of anything and working on an equation, then I will play that. And I want to spend time with people who have higher quality thought processes than me, because I'm not that smart. And so I'm downloading their thoughts, and kind of the frequency that they're living on, which has been tremendously valuable. So there's a lot of mental like tools I use in the mornings. And I wake up at 4 when it's quiet. The air's thin. No one else is up, and it's probably one of the most valuable times of the day. On the back side of the day, so then I have my 5 to 7, which is like family relationships. If I get to be home, which that's a kind of sometimes a hit or miss, but if I'm home, 5 to 7 is family time. And then after that, I'm leaning into kind of movie time with the wife, but I got my computer out, like 5 to 7 is family time, but I'm here with you. But now we're in like quasi family time. Or I have a UV sauna at my house where I go in there, especially if I'm troubled, and I think, and I talk to my Heavenly Father, and I think, and I know, and I think more people should consider that there's so much value in setting aside time to think and be with yourself and really, really have a conversation with yourself and explore and allow room for creativity and it's a muscle, and it gets stronger, and you become better at it, and using the tools that you have, it becomes easier. And so that's a discipline that I love. And that UV sun was like the best $1,500 I've ever spent on Amazon, because
I think that's phenomenal. I love that. I love what you just said is give yourself space to think.
100%.
And it's something I had to learn. It took me years to figure that out. And so that's a great piece of advice. I really appreciate you sharing that. You call yourself a protector by nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And by the way, so everyone knows, we were outside the studio. We were both waiting for the door to be unlocked. I am walking towards him, and I could tell he was looking to protect me. You didn't realize this, by the way, and I noticed this. Okay, and I thought it was really interesting. Mostly people would just stand at the door, wait for me to get to you.
Right.
You went out of your way. You walked up to me, and kind of escorted me to the door. I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah,
I think you subconsciously said, I'm going to go grab Ben and bring him to the door.
Absolutely.
Which I thought was really freaking cool. I wish we had that on tape. So
So
thank you for protecting me.
Thank you.
I'm honored.
I'm honored.
Right. So share more about what this means to be a protector by nature, and how does being a protector influence how you go about your day-to-day life?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's amazing. What happened with us was totally organic. Like, I saw you, I was like, awesome, and then just kind of fell into my position that I would with a principal, and was like, sweet. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of what we do, And so, and then once I was there, I was like, this is right. I didn't even really think about it. I just felt it and was like, sweet. But being a protector by nature and by trade is that, it's my family, they experience and benefit from that all the time. I'm constantly thinking of life and moving through life in that way, and they're my primary detail, that's my first enterprise. Anywhere I go, like sometimes it cracks me up when I'm walking onto a plane and, you get I don't know, like the nice little old lady that, I'm walking on with, like, I got my tattoos and all my stuff, and people are like, like people are trying to like read, my stickers and things, and they're like sizing me up, and I'll, smile, help the little old lady put her bag in the service compartment and all those different things, but always kind of socially engineering an environment so that if I do have to go to work, everyone understands that's a good dude. No, that guy was a good guy. And so as I move through life, I guess it's really just having a much more protective lens. I'm the guy who's going to see the predators in the room, and they're going to hopefully see me. I'll make sure they see me, because we're both predators. They hunt innocent and I hunt them. And so that is just kind of and it's my mission to multiply protectors in the world. I believe protectors are the white blood cells in the body of humanity. So like people that are listening and being inspired, like that's what I'm all about. Like I can only do so much. I can only protect one environment, but if I can get people excited about this basic need that we all have, I think my mission is to make the world a safer place that way. So yeah, it's also something that people, like I said, you might have a job, or you might have relationships. You might be in a place where you're out of alignment with that, but there's nothing wrong with, I can be the biggest, baddest guy in the world, but my, women and children are at home alone right now, for many men right now. And, that also comes down to the reality that women need to be protectors as well, whether you like it or not, or it kind of scares you. Competence will eradicate that fear. Understanding how and what you can do and what protection looks like for you, because it might be different. We have different tools. I'm a physically potent human being. I'm going to do protection one way, and you not being, there's still so much you can do to be difficult to take advantage of, and very difficult to take advantage of. But it's understanding, what your tactics should look like. And the reality of protection is 80-90% of actually being safe is living a safer pattern of life, and it has to do with the way you move through your life and the way you see and recognize the environment around you. A little bit of planning, changing your perception, and some thought processes and decisions you're making throughout your day. You'll avoid 90% of everything and won't even realize it. You'll just live a safer pattern of life.
Well, what a great point that is. So it's really being aware, preparing, knowing what you're getting into, and making wise decisions.
Yeah,
and that
100%.
will prevent a lot of chaos and stress.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a great point. So obviously we talked about, you wrote a book, finding meaning after the military. I'm often hearing story about veteran struggles post discharge, and I have a lot of friends that are veterans as well. And at some point, was it challenging for you? And what insights did you want to share in your book that you can help other vets that are leaving, the military?
That's a great question. I really, really, so for me, I got out and I, started getting calls about friends tapping out, and, being the type of guy that really was like, I was like, being a warrior was like, is who I am. And so I always wanted to contribute. If there's a fight, like I owe it to my tribe to get out there. Like there are people that can't fight for themselves, and here I am. Here I am. I need to go. So once I got out and I started to realize, like, dudes are tapping out. Like, how can I contribute to this battle positively? That's when I got into the masters, and that's when I started to write the book and started to kind of really look at myself and really try to study this thing. And what I found is two things. One thing that's worth mentioning is just because you're not like the veteran behind Walmart, like on the streets right now, that does not mean you are okay. Most of my friends that took the big ride were guys that you would look at and think they were fine on the outside. My struggle was I was addicted to my own dopamine, so like ultra high functioning, very durable. But like when I was at war, like things were 150 miles an hour. I came back here and it's like eternal damnation to a cartoon. Like nothing's real, nothing's intense ever again. It's like being forced to live in a cartoon. Like it's a Nerf forever now. I hope you liked the living at one point in time. It kind of was the way I was feeling. And so life was just boring and tasteless. So I got into drugs. I started doing all kinds of stuff. And I was ultra high functioning. I could go to work, do my thing. Remember, I started making like six figures at 21 years old right after the Marine Corps, which is like a death sentence. And then, one guy did die on the detail right before I got there. And so I had to kind of realize, like, rein myself back in, like, what are you doing? So the first piece of advice is find your new fight. If you're a veteran and you're listening and you're going through transition, is like, what's worth living for and what's worth dying for now? And how are you going to, on a daily basis, like, take everything you learned? Because I have extreme advantages, I believe, because I was a Marine and because I went to war. Because I know what it is to go hard. I know what a bad day looks like. I know what a real actual problem looks like, not like the stuff that my, civilian friends and family members come to me like, God bless my wife. And I'm like, I don't know if there's a problem all the time, But I have that backdrop to be like, no, this is not actually stressful, And I can go hard on a mission. I wake up every morning and I'm tired and it's beautiful because I'm fighting a war. So find your new fight. The way guys die, I believe, is because the atrophy of identity gets to them. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you have that whole pyramid, food, water, shelter, validation, culture, all these different things, when you're in the military, you're at the top of that pyramid. Then you leave, you need to rebuild that pyramid. If you do not rebuild that pyramid psychologically, you're going to one day, you're going to not feel value. You're going to tell your war stories. Your wife's going to be tired of hearing your war stories after a few months, and all your friends, you know what I mean? And you're going to be sitting there, and then you're going to want to change your state because you're not feeling validated. And you're going to start wanting to drink and smoke and do all these different things, especially if you still have the dopamine thing from going hard and fighting for your life and always watching to see if someone's trying to kill you. And you're going to start drinking. You're going to start doing all these different things to try to change your state. Then one day you're going to look in the mirror and the former version of you that you built is going to be looking back at you, and he's going to be disgusted with you, and you're going to be disgusted with yourself. And when that identity thing happens and you're like, this is where I am, this is where I used to be, and the road to getting back to where you were when you were, is so great. I think that's what crushes guys' spirits and breaks them. So when you get out, find something worth fighting for.
Do we do enough educating vets when they come back from war? Is there something we can do? Are we mindful enough as a society saying, this is what they're going through, just like what you said, and we can go a step further for them to integrate them into civilian life and make sure that they can thrive as a part of society?
I think of course there's more that can be done. Like if there were listeners that really wanted to try to find ways to help veterans, I'd say, yeah, for sure there's more education, I think, maybe that could be done. But then the veteran in me wants to say, like, that dude's life is that dude's responsibility and he needs to get after it. Like we stopped treating service members the way we were treated in the military that made us great when they get out. You know, it's like, oh, you get out and like, hey, do you have PTSD? Like, are you okay? Like, and I'm like, and I remember when I was doing life coaching for veterans, man, and I just remember being like, hey, bro, like, are you a quitter? Like, are you going to let this kill you? Like, what's going on? You know, and they responded to that. And it was just me just saying, like, don't forget where you come from, man. Dig deep, figure it out, win anyways. Okay, you have more assets now than any other human being that's ever walked the earth before us. Okay, find the programs. There's lots of programs out there that'll help veterans and deal with it, you know. And a lot of PTSD has a lot to do with also trauma that guys experience in life before they even get into the military. And the military experiences exasperate everything, right? So deal with your trash and win anyway for everyone connected to you and everyone you're here to protect and provide for, you know. And so I know there's more that, yeah, the people could do, and it's an awesome question. But then on the other side, if there's a veteran listening, I'd be like, hey, bro, like, no handouts. We did so much more with so much less. Make it work, because that's who we are. You know, when you're out in Iraq and you had nothing, and we were a bunch of 21 imperfect kids, literally like living in, you know, craters from when they were shelling us. And we knew, I thought for sure I was going to die on many occasions. And I'm sitting out there, I'm like, I'm fighting grown men. I'm 19 years old. All I got is these dudes next to me. We're out of water. I got to shut off my radio because my dudes are out of reach. We are here alone for the next however many days. And it's 120 some 30 degrees during the day, and it's 30 degrees at nighttime. And you're just out there like Lord of the Flies meets Juvenile Hall. And it's just, and you want to come back here into this. And that's the thing. Nothing will lead you closer to destruction than comfort, because we underestimate this reality. And this reality is where a much more sophisticated battle is actually fought. And that's why I took way more casualties coming back to the first civilian division than I ever took over there in combat at the hand of the enemy.
So the name of the show is I Own It, which is being responsible for your life. Everything you choose, your decisions, your behavior, what you consume, information, food, your behavior, you name it. So we're all works in progress. We always are. Can you share an example of when you realized maybe you had it wrong and you didn't own it fully, and you realized, like, I got to change?
How much time you got?
Well, you know, yeah, we can go for hours here, but I don't know if our audience is going to want to
can do it. Yeah, no, I mean, we're on the veteran thing. I mean, there's a lot of situations, you know, where, you know, I've never been shy. Like, I've always been willing to die. You know, I've always been willing to die in battle. I've always been like, all right, I'll go, you know. And in business, that can get me into all kinds of trouble, because I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll figure it out, you know, because I'm just crazy enough, you know. And so there've been a number of situations where I've ran out and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And then as I've grown as a man, I've realized, like, hey, dude, like, that's really honorable that you're willing to go and take on tasks that are extremely difficult or dangerous, and that you're willing to give your life for something. But, like, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You have to win because of all the people depending on you and that are connected to you, and the tribes that you now represent, and these brands and all these people. You need to be here to execute on this mission and this vision for your family and for all the other trash that you just went and gave birth, that you just brought into the world, you know? Like, it's not okay. So you have to win. So that's been a really interesting, like, mantle and responsibility to take on. Because it was kind of like, yeah, because I think, you know, I'm not taking anything away from anyone who's made the ultimate sacrifice, of course, but, like, no, it's not good enough just to go and fight and die. The other thing, and to give you an exact extreme example, for me, you know, I remember when I got out on that veteran line, and I was just partying and just doing all of the drugs and partying and doing everything, and then, you know, popping up in the morning, still hitting the gym at like 9 a.m., still going out, doing all my stuff, and then coming back out and going crazy at night. I just remember at a certain point, I just was like, bro, you're going to wreck your life. Like you can do this, yeah.
Right.
But are all things expedient? Like, is this really? This is a lot of risk, you know, and it's just not sustainable. So it's just you're gonna wreck your life, and you have been so blessed, and that, you know, that really means a lot to me. When I got, you know, hit with 60 some pounds of homemade explosives and had my out of body experience, and I prayed and asked to be able to come back, and you know, God gave me a second chance, I believe. You know, what I prayed to him was like, if I get a chance to go back, I might never be everything you want me to be, but I'm going to go so hard at living this life to the best of my ability. I actually said, I will go so hard in the paint. I promise. And so that was a time where I was like, hey, dude, take a hard left, get out of here. And I stopped. I left California, moved across the United States, changed my environment, cut everything. Like, I just changed everything. And that was definitely a moment where I was like, no, we need to own it, you know? And I don't care how hard it is. Die over it, but make
great.
the change.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. What's the best way? Well, I know, but tell our audience.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
And by the way, let me preface this after you answer this. So, what's the best way to follow you?
I'd say first Instagram, Byron _Rodgers, and then YouTube.
Okay. And by the way, let me tell everyone out there, if you are going to follow him on YouTube, make sure you have plenty of time, because it's intoxicating, it's very addicting, and you will spend hours just watching his stuff. It's fantastic. I encourage you to go on all social media platforms and check him out. But YouTube he's spectacular. So,
wow.
And I'm telling you that from personal experience. So,
Thank you, sir.
We're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. Okay. And so you're in studio. We don't have the couch in here because, you know, we had a set up for you. And normally we have a couch right here. And I would say, Byron, lay on the couch, close your eyes. Okay. How old are you now, by the way?
I just turned 37 on Halloween.
Okay. You're a young 37-year-old man. And you close your eyes, and I say, take yourself back to when you were 16 years old.
Like we're doing
now,
this, like I'm closing my eyes.
Yes, you can do it now.
Okay.
And now remember, you are your 37-year-old self, a lot of experience, combat experience, you know, protection agent, successful, family. You have experience under your belt.
Right.
You're now talking to your younger version at 16 years old. What would you share with your 16-year-old self that would help when you were 16-year-old, knowing what you know now? What would you say to yourself?
You know, I would say that one part of me wants to say it's going to be okay, but that's not good enough. You know, the other part of me wants to say, you know, the key, if there is one, is do the best you can with what you have. Always push, like go after the thing, go after it 100%. Remain humble enough to learn, stay in a state of learning the entire time, but always put in maximum effort. And that, if you can continue evolving by learning and have the emotional intelligence to get yourself to go, and you can continue evolving, then you can do it. You can do it. And you can do so much more than you ever thought you can do. Because life's it's so beautiful in that once you get to that mountaintop, you open your eyes and you can see the next mountaintop. Like, it just is always more. But you become stronger as you stay on the path, and you become more competent as you stay on the path, and more formidable. And so, like, it's less about the destination. It's so much more about the journey and who you become, because everything that comes through you as a result of doing that work for yourself, it's like by the time you get to that mountaintop, you're already like, yo, my teams, we can achieve so much more. You get to that mountaintop and it's like watching a stop sign almost. And you're like, and so just the discipline of being willing to be a white belt, and being willing to, you know, get in there and get punched in the face, and being willing to, you know, bear the stripes that will help you develop, which is the emotional intelligence to get in there. And then also just being able to, and being able to stay in there, and being humble enough, you know, to continue learning. And I also try to keep a healthy fear of arrogance, you know? Like, I'm a professional student.
Great point.
I I pride myself in the right things. I pride myself in being a professional student. I pride myself in trying to be as humble as possible, you know. Like, it's like, you don't even say you're humble, it's trying to be as humble as possible, you know.
You let your behavior dictate what that means.
Yeah. And so fear is important, you know. Fear is a tool if you have fear, but if fear has you, it's one of, you know, it's a dangerous thing. So that's what I tell them, man. I'd say remain humble, but get after it and learn. If you keep those two going, you can be so much more than you ever think you can.
So the bottom line would be balance your mind.
Yeah.
Control your mind, your emotions.
And the one last thing I'd say is I'd want my life to be an example of what one imperfect human being can do by the grace of God if you just go on ahead and apply those things and balance your mind and apply yourself to getting better. Because
well said.
No one's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't even have my six-pack completely yet. you know, but your gift will make room for you if you can really make it valuable.
Absolutely. Great answer.
So
So it's our last day on earth. God forbid.
Oh, this is good.
We're hanging out. Me
Yeah.
and you. It's our last meal. It's your choice.
No pressure,
All right.
right?
What are we eating?
Oh, my last meal on earth. My choice. We're gonna have a fine
And wait.
cuisine.
And let me add something to it, because you're a world traveler.
Yes, sir.
We could eat anywhere. Like, it could be like some crazy random place in some country that you said, man, I used to love eating that or at that. So you can expand your horizon.
Yeah, I do have a happy place,
Okay.
and I never got to go to the Burj Khalifa, but I do love the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. And man, me and my buddy Caleb used to have the best breakfasts. Just not necessarily at the top of the place, but just they have a breakfast spot that's right there on the beach, and you know the water's just coming in, and it's just, you're just right there, and it's a peaceful place. And I have gone to this peaceful place over the years. So that's where we'd be eating. We'd be eating at that breakfast spot at the Burj right there on the water. And
is there something there that you really like? Like, what are we eating?
No, but what we're gonna be eating,
it's abundance.
Yeah, it's I can't say that. I got a thing for fried chicken, man. I know it's a surprise. I know it's a surprise.
So
but
we got fried chicken.
There would be some fried chicken.
What else are we eating?
I got a plate of the stereotype. And then I'm from the Bahamas.
Okay.
So, you know, I love conch, man. We definitely have some conch salad.
Okay.
We would definitely have some guava duff, which is like a dessert that they make, which is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Some rum cake. We would have an awesome ribeye.
Nice.
Honestly, my wife makes the best ribeye, so she'd make us ribeye before we go.
Okay. All right.
And I think that's pretty much where we'd be at, man. Ribeye, conch for the appetizers, and
what are we washing all this down with?
I mean, I don't really drink too much. I mean,
well, remember, this is your last day on Earth, so you could
do
step by.
what the heck I want to do.
Yeah, you're not the protective agent anymore.
Yeah,
I'm
not working.
You're just some guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a vodka guy if I'm drinking. Yeah, I mean, I would just maybe, if I was gonna have a drink, it's always, you know, Goose.
Nice.
You know.
So, in our studio, you can see we have a drum set, a grand piano, and electric guitars. We can bring in any musician or band, alive, deceased, right here with us now. Your choice to play us a song. Who are we bringing in?
Jeez. I don't know. I don't really. A band.
It could be a band or a musician. It could be anyone.
Or musician.
Yeah, it could be an individual. It could be a band. It could be two people. Your choice.
I mean, we took over Iraq to Metallica.
Okay.
You know.
Right. Enter the Sandman.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome. That would be
my choice
definitely
too. That's a good choice.
Up.
That's a good choice. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
It's an honor.
It's really an honor to have you here, and what a great service you provide others. And thank you so much again for your service. You're just a true gentleman and a true pleasure to speak to, and I'm very honored to have you on my show. So thank you. And for everyone, if you want to listen to more episodes of the Ben Reinberg I Own It show, kick that right-hand lower button and click subscribe. Hit the like button if you like this episode as well as other episodes on our show. Feel free to go to benreinberg.com for all following me for social media and all the different platforms that were out there. And also, if you want to learn about commercial real estate, go to alliancecgc.com. We have a lot of content on commercial real estate. I will be teaching from A to Z commercial real estate to the entire world. That will be coming shortly in 2023. And if you're interested in investing in our brand new Alliance Medical Property Fund, feel free to click on our site as well. So, Byron Rodgers, thank you so much again. What a pleasure, and it was great seeing you.
Absolutely. It was an honor, sir.
Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.